Good evening or good afternoon, everybody. Back online again for another little live video. Now, I was inspired to do this particular video because I was just looking through some of the emails that I get on a regular basis, and I was struck by one particular email that I received from a guy, a French pilot, who said to me that he took an English test recently, and he told me that the examiners told him he couldn't have a level 6 on the test because he had a French accent. Now, for me, to say that you cannot get a level 6 on an English test just because you have a French accent is fundamentally incorrect. Because if you look at the ICAO rating table, where we have the 6 rating criteria, which are pronunciation, structure, vocabulary, fluency, comprehension, and interaction, in the pronunciation box, we don't talk about having an accent, we talk about the pronunciation of the person who is taking the exam. And it's very, very important to be able to distinguish between an accent, which is just simply the way somebody speaks, and pronunciation, which is how clear their way of speaking is to other people who are listening to them. That's really the most important thing. So everybody has an accent when they speak English, or indeed any other language. For example, in my case, I learned English as a child in the south of England, so my accent is very specific to south central England, sort of around the Portsmouth area, close to the Isle of Wight, which is fairly similar to, shall we say, a London accent, or what we call an estuary accent, so sort of a generic south coast type accent. Whereas somebody from Scotland, of course, is going to have a completely different accent from me, as is somebody from Ireland, or wherever you like. So what's really important is not whether you have an accent from a particular place, but whether your way of pronouncing words or acronyms, particularly in aviation, is clear to everybody. So I'll take a few examples just to illustrate this. Now, what is very important is, as I said, is not your accent, but how far your pronunciation of a particular word or words deviates from a generally accepted range of sounds. So let's take an example, a very simple example, which I hear all the time when I'm doing English tests with French pilots. French pilots who want to say IFR, but they end up saying IFR. Now, I understand French because I'm a bilingual French speaker. I've almost always spoken French for most of my life. So I understand that when a French pilot is trying to say IFR, in fact, what they want to say is IFR. But an American or a Spaniard or an Italian controller, for example, may not understand that the person is trying to say IFR rather than IFR. So that is a pronunciation error in the sense that it reduces comprehension. An American saying IFR, or a Scottish person saying IFR, or somebody from the north of England saying IFR, or me saying IFR, it's more or less the same thing. They're slightly different, but the sound group is more or less the same thing. So it's IFR, but just small changes. And the same thing for example, let's take the word pilot. Now, a word that we hear very often in English tests. Quite often, French people in a test, they will say pilote instead of a pilot. Whereas an American might say a pilot, or a Scottish person might say a pilot, but that's still within the same range. Whereas a pilote is completely outside of that particular range of understandable words. So what is very important is that your pronunciation of a particular word is within an acceptable range of understanding. That's really the most important thing. Et si je commence à parler français avec un accent anglais pour les gens qui sont francophones et qui me comprennent, ce n'est pas parce que je parle avec un accent comme ça que vous ne me comprenez pas, parce que les mots sont dans la bonne syntaxe et vous me comprenez parfaitement. En voor de mensen die Nederlands ook spreken, dat is een van de andere talen die ik gebruik voor mijn werk. Ik spreek wel misschien met een buitenlands accent, maar het geluid zit in een bepaalde bereik en jij begrijpt me geweldig. Er is geen probleem, jullie hebben geen probleem om mij te begrijpen. Maar ik heb wel een kleine, zal zeggen, buitenlands accent. And that was just for the Dutch people, because I know some Dutch people watch my channel as well. So, but what I'm trying to illustrate is that just speaking like a foreigner is not a problem as long as the sounds that you pronounce are within a given range and are understandable. So please never forget that aviation English is about communication, and it's not because you have an accent from a particular country that it is impossible to achieve a level 6 on an English test. In any case, thank you very much for listening. I hope you found this video useful. And please do feel free to get in touch, phone, Facebook, WhatsApp, Instagram, and I'll be happy to answer any questions you may have. Have a nice evening and take care.